Dear students, welcome to our next case study in the series of ethical case studies from the previous year question paper. So far we have done 9 case studies in this particular series. This would be our case study number 10. I am Babu Gunashekaran, faculty for Indian Polity and Governance, and also I take up ethical case studies. Now this is a case that you are going to see is from Civil Service Examination 2021. This is a case that is presented in front of the aspirants who are to decide about the various ethical dilemmas and concerns about an unethical business practice which is followed in a reputed food company. Now, under such a circumstances, there are competent authorities. So, the directives that is given in the case study is asking what are the actions that the competent authority has to do and what kind of options possibly the company officials can take to prevent the reputation of such company, despite the fact that they have engaged in something what is called as unethical. So, this is what is the entire case is all about. So, let me briefly explain this case and let us go to the directives and let us try to understand as to how to approach this particular case study. But before we approach to this particular case study, as I would explain in all the lectures, what basically is a case study? The case study idea of bringing that in the civil service examination is to put the students in certain critical position where there is a lot of ethical issues and other legal issues surrounding a particular case, which involves a number of facts and other stakeholders, and how an aspirant who will possibly become a civil servant in the future is able to take decisions under such circumstances. And that is the reason as to why this case study approach has been brought in. It is also to test, I would say, the attitude of a civil servant, his ability to make decisions under critical situations. So, all those skills are analyzed by case study approach. All right. So, let me just quickly get into this particular case. So, we will just get into this case. You can understand the case. So, this case, let me just put it across. There is a reputed food company in India, an India-based company, and this reputed food company has been given permissions to export food products to international market. So, it has got the permission, it has started exporting food to the international market, and after the initial success, this product has been well received in the international market, and after the initial success, the company also decides that they are going to produce the same food product to the domestic market as well. And in fact, they have promised that to the domestic market also, they will come out with the same quality and the health standards. And then they apply to the competent authority to sell the food product in the domestic market as well, and they also get the approval from the competent authority. But after the approval from the competent authority, the company sees this as a great opportunity to increase their market value and also to make a huge profit. Under such a circumstances, what happens? A random sample test was done on the product which is sold in the domestic market, and it was found that the product was in deviance to what is the approval which is given by the competent authority. This is not the approval that is given by the competent authorities. There is some deviation from what is the approval that is granted on paper, and also the product is not having the health standards as it is there in the international market. And on further investigation, it was also found that these are products which were rejected by the international markets. So, whatever products that has been rejected there has been brought back here and it has been sold in the domestic market. Now, this is the issue in this particular case, and this has also brought a severe damage to the reputation of this particular company. So, this is the case that is presented in front of you. So, as someone who is aware of the facts of this particular case and the scenario in which all these things are happening, so there are certain directives that is given in this particular question. So, let us quickly go to the directives and try to understand the directives in this particular question. So, you can see option A, option B, option C. So, these are the various directives which is given in the question. So, what is option A? What action do you visualize should be taken by the competent authority against the food company for violating the laid down domestic food standard and selling the rejected export products in the domestic market? So, here as a person who is knowing this particular case, UPSC is trying to assess your understanding and what kind of options possibly the competent authority has to take. So, probably here the competent authority is nothing but the government, the appropriate government. So what kind of actions do you visualize that the competent authority should take against such unethical practice which is carried out by the domestic market, by the company? Second thing is, what course of action available with a food company to resolve the crisis and bring back its reputation? So the company officials later realized that whatever has happened is unethical, illegal. So what kind of corrective measures they can take so that they can restore the reputation of that particular company, and in the process examine the ethical dilemmas involved. So in the process, what are the various dilemmas that may be there in the minds of both the government officials, the competent authority, and the company in dealing with this particular case study. So that is basically what this case is all about. Now let us just proceed further. So first, whenever you approach a particular case study, the first and foremost thing is you should be aware of the various stakeholders in that particular case. So who are the stakeholders in this particular case? Of course, the domestic customers. It is to the domestic customers the product are sold, so they are an important stakeholder. And then to the company, so the company is playing an important role. So the company officials, the company and the other stakeholders who are part of the company, they are all part of the stakeholders. And apart from that, the competent authority who has given the approval, who is supposed to take action against all those things, and the government overall, it is the government which is responsible for enforcing all the laws in our country. So the government is also a stakeholder. Now, once you identify the stakeholder, whenever you approach a particular case study, try to remember this in your mind. You'll have to do the right thing, and as far as possible, both ethically as well as legally. And at the same time, you take care of the interest of all the stakeholders. So this is something that you have to keep in your mind. So now with this information, let us just move into the directives that is given in the question. So this is what is the directive that is given in the question. But before I get into the directives, what is the larger subject matter do you think that this case is all about? Now this case is all about, I would say, a number of things is involved, a number of subject matter. I would say that ethical concerns and dilemmas in private institutions. In a private institution, whenever a decision is taken, what are the various ethical concerns and dilemmas which will affect their decision? And then I also see a topic which is related to corporate governance, because a decision which is taken in a corporate has to meet the requirements and they have to take into consideration the welfare of every stakeholder in a corporate. So here, have they taken into account the interest of the customers, or has the company breached the trust between them and the customers by selling a product which is substandard in nature? So corporate governance is involved in this. As a competent authority, they have to function with certain civil service values. So that is also there. And laws, rules and regulations as a source of ethical guidance. So the action of the competent authority has to be based on the laws, rules and regulations in our country. So that is also a major subject matter. So all these things can be used as a part of your answer in this particular case, which can decide the kind of decision that you decide in this particular case. Now come to the first option, which is saying, what actions do you visualize? As someone who is aware of the case, this is the question that is put in front of you. What actions do you visualize should be taken by the competent authority against the food company for violating the laid down domestic food standard and selling rejected export product in domestic market? Now try to understand this. For a student who is preparing for civil service, they should also be aware of the general important laws in our country. The moment you read this particular case study, you can understand that a reputed food company is selling a product in the market, but the product is substandard. The product has some misadvertisement. The product is misbranded. So they are branding something, but they are selling something else. So they're also breaching the trust. So all these things are involved in this particular case, which is also a serious violation of the Food Standards and the Safety Act in our country. So you should be aware of the general laws in our country. The Food Standards and the Safety Act provides for a competent authority to look into the products that is sold, and they can pick up those products for random sampling, and if found substandard, then the penalty and other consequences shall be faced by the respective companies. So to me, the moment I read this particular case, I understand this particular case. So this case involves selling of a substandard product. So definitely they are selling a substandard product, and also a product which is misbranded and misleading advertisement. So this product also has misleading advertisement plus a breach of trust. So all these things are part of this particular product. So this involves a case of selling substandard product and also misbranded and misleading advertisement plus a breach of trust. So all these things are involved in this particular case. So this is the first thing that you have to understand. Now, to answer this particular question, if you are aware of the food standards and safety acts, that can help you to approach this particular case otherwise better. Otherwise also you can use your common logic in answering this particular question. So first of all, what the competent authority has to do? The competent authority has to take care of the stakeholders, the customers who are at risk in this particular case by consuming this particular product. So immediately the first thing that the competent authority has to do is that they have to recall the food products at the earliest and wide publicity about the possible consequences, because it is not up to the health standards and it is in deviation. So because the case study is not very clear as to what extent there is a deviation, sometimes it might create a health risk also. Even if it is not creating a health risk, that you are cheating the people, you are breaching the trust that the company has shown to the people, because the company is saying something and selling something, and hence it is immediate response of the competent authority to recall and to give wide publicity of the product that has been sold and let the people know that this product is not up to the standards. Second thing, initiate appropriate legal action against the company and at the same time impose fine as per the law. As I already said, there are provisions under the Food Standards and Safety Act so that they can impose what is called as a fine. So they can impose fine according or as per the law. So this can be done. So they can initiate appropriate legal actions and against the company and at the same time impose fine as per the law. So come to C. The option C is compensate the customers if incurred losses. So they should also compensate the customers if any losses are incurred. So this is also very important, because this case also involves a breach of trust of the customers. So the customers are paid for a substandard product. So compensate the customers if incurred losses due to the purchase of the product and the health consequences in case by consuming this food product, if there is any health consequence or otherwise any other financial losses that has been incurred, the competent authority has to make sure that it is all borne by the respective company. So such actions, because such provisions are allowed under the Food Standards and Safety Act. Now develop a protocol for more frequent sampling and analysis of the food products. Now these are all something that they have taken subsequent to what has happened, but a preventive measure should also be devised by the competent authority so that such an incident does not happen in the future. So probably this company can be kept under a more severe category or something, where they do a frequent random sampling of the products so that they make sure that this incident does not happen again in the future. So this can also be done to the other companies also as a proactive measure. So all these actions can be taken by the competent authority. So in order to ensure the interest of the customers and also to safeguard the interest of the other stakeholders. All right. So this is what is the competent authority has to do. Come to the next thing. What course of action is available to the food company? Now, what is the option that is available to the food company itself to resolve the crisis and bring back its lost reputations? Of course, once the competent authority takes the decision, there is a loss of reputation because there is a breach of trust. So now the company has to do something that would bridge this trust deficit and also to regain the reputation that it has lost. So what kind of actions may be taken by the company? So if you see option A, immediate information to the concerned food safety officer. So first thing is immediate information to the concerned food safety officer and recall the products from the market. Recall all the products from the market. So this is very, very important. As a responsible company, if they know that they have done a mistake, it is their responsibility to take up the responsibility and be accountable for that. So they have to immediately recall all the products, and the same is available, same option is available to a company who is selling a particular product under the Food Safety and Standards Act. If for some reason they feel that the product is not up to the quality, they can immediately recall those products. And they can also compensate the customers appropriately. So whatever is the price that is paid by the customers, so they can also compensate the customers appropriately. So this is also that has to be done by the company. And then apart from that, tender an unconditional apology to the customers. It is very, very important because they have breached the trust of the customers. So they tender an unconditional apology and also face the legal consequences as per the law of the land. So they should also write to the competent authority that yes, we will face the legal consequences. And if there is something which is wrong on the part of the management, so they should also conduct an internal inquiry and ascertain the reasons for the decision. So the management, the top management should also ascertain as to what is the reason why, what has led such a decision to be taken in the company earlier to sell a product which has been rejected by a foreign market. So they have to ascertain that also. They should also face the legal consequences. They should tender an unconditional apology to the customers as well, and if they have had any financial losses, that should also be taken care by the company. So all these actions should be taken care. Plus, place the quality control and the inspection reports in the public domain in the future to bridge the trust deficit. So if this is basically to bridge the trust deficit. That means in the future, what the company can do is voluntarily they can put their reports in the public domain, probably in the website of the government. Voluntarily they can put it so that the people will know that they are having regular quality checks, and then the product that has been submitted by the company to the market is a good product, and it is not in deviation with the approval which is given by the competent authority. Okay, so all these things may be the steps, in my opinion, which can be taken by the company in order to build their reputation. So gradually and slowly they can regain their reputation. Now come to the last option, examine the ethical dilemmas involved in the case. So what are the ethical dilemmas which is involved in the case? If you see the ethical dilemmas which is involved in the case, the company has all these ethical dilemmas. So what is the ethical dilemma? For the company has now already done something that which is not good. They have sold the product which is substandard, which has been rejected by a foreign market. So what is the ethical dilemma that would have made the company to take such a decision? So ethical dilemma means that they have different options, and despite that they decide one thing. So before deciding they have a multiple options. So that is a situation where they are in an ethical dilemma. So what is the ethical dilemma that would allow them? So they have to balance between consumer interest and the company's profit. That is what is very important. So what they have to balance? They have to balance between consumer interest and the company's profit. So this is what is all about the corporate governance. They have to decide actions which is in balancing the interest of all the stakeholders. But probably we do not know what has happened in this particular case. Probably a huge consignment has been rejected. It might incur a huge loss to the company. We are not able to sell it. So they thought that we will sell it in the domestic market. But then again, it is not ethically right. So here the concern that may be, the dilemma that may be there in front of them is either to make profit or to take care of the interest of the consumers. If you take care of the interest of the consumers, there may be a huge loss to the company, and to make a profit, you will have to sell that product to the customers, even if it is a substandard product. So here the company has taken decision in favor of making a profit to the company. Probably if the profit is not there, then probably it can lead to loss to the company, which can also affect the employees in the company and the other stakeholders in the company. So to safeguard that, probably they have decided to sell that particular product. But I definitely not say that it is an ethical thing to do. It is completely unethical. But I'm saying what could be the possible ethical dilemma under the circumstances which the decision has been arrived. Now, what is the dilemma to the competent authority? So such an unfortunate incident has happened. Now the competent authority has to act. So in whatever action that the competent authority would take, so what are the possible ethical dilemmas that would affect the decision of the competent authority? So competent authority here means a government authority. So they have to take into account the consumer interest and the reputation of India, because this company is also selling product to the international markets. But at the same time, the company has sold a substandard product to the Indian consumers or the Indian customers. Now, it is the responsibility of the competent authority to ensure that the customers' interests are protected. So, as per the law, they can initiate actions against the company to protect the companies, to protect the interest of the consumers, the customers. But at the same time, if an action is initiated, it can also bring down the reputation of India, because it's an India-based company which is also exporting products to the foreign countries. But although those products are of good quality, but again, there is a possibility that the reputation of the company might get affected. Not only the reputation of the company, but the reputation of India as well, because India is also maybe exporting other products. So there can be a quality check on the other products also. So there is a possibility that the reputation of India is also at stake. So this is a big dilemma for the authorities. And then the next thing is the competent authority has to carry out their functions according to the laws, rules and regulations. So it is their responsibility to ensure what is called as rule of law. So whether to take action against the company, or they will also think about the company's interest apart from the reputation of India. So they also think about the company's interest, because there can be number of employees in that company. What will happen if something happens to the company? Will it affect the other employees as well? So this should also be taken into account. But however, it is the ultimate responsibility of the competent authority to ensure what is called as rule of law. So, these are all the possible dilemmas that may have. So, but however, the ultimate responsibility both legally as well as ethically is that they have to ensure the rule of law, they have to ensure the interest of the customers, and that is what the law of the land says, that is what the Food Safety and Standard Act says. Okay. So, keeping this in mind, you can approach the other directives which I already discussed as well. So, these are the possible ethical dilemmas in this particular case. All right. So, with that we have completed this particular case study, a very good case study. So, in the future as we will move forward, we will also discuss the other case studies. So, the idea is by doing this, we will make sure that we solve all the case studies in the future which has been asked in the UPSC examination. And if you want the PPT of this particular case study, you can get it from my Telegram channel, that is Babu 337. And to get an important current affairs question on a daily basis also, you can follow my Telegram channel Babu 337. Thank you very much. All the very best. God bless.